Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Amit, and on this channel I talk about stocks, investing, and finance with a keen focus on Palantir because I have $25,000 invested in this company that is becoming a meme for every Palantir video, because when you have $25,000 invested into a company, you do a lot of research on the company, you make a lot of content about the company, and you always remind people that you have $25,000 invested into the company. Today, we're talking about Alex Karp. Who is Alex Karp? Who is this guy? This guy with this crazy hair. I have crazy hair, so I know what it feels like to have crazy hair, but this guy's hair is a little bit different in terms of its craziness, and also his personality is very eccentric. His personality is very unique. His personality is very out there. It's not the traditional Tim Cooks of the world, Zuckerbergs of the world, kind of uptight, kind of always wearing the same shirt at every conference. He's a different character. And personally, I kind of like it, right? So in this video, I want to talk about a couple things. Number one, I want to talk about who this guy is and why he is the unusual character that he may seem like. And if you've ever watched any interviews of him, I encourage you guys to watch some interviews just to get a better understanding of Alex Karp. It will also lead you to probably have more conviction in the company, given I do believe it is the founder and CEO's responsibility to instill conviction in their shareholders by talking about the company in a particularly meaningful way. And yes, that requires communication skills, soft skills. How slow are you talking? How passionate is your voice? How energetic are you? These are the things that most CEOs, they have, but they don't have at a level that's like inspiring and motivational, right? They're kind of like cookie cutter, boring people. I think Alex Karp has it. So I want to talk about him. I want to talk about his past. I want to talk about how he got here to become the CEO of Palantir in the first place. And finally, I want to talk about my interpretation for his leadership over the next decade, because I'm assuming he will be here over the next decade. He is a little bit older. He's about 54 years old right now. Do I see him doing this till 64? Maybe, maybe not. But I do think at least for the next 5-6 years, he's going to be doing it. And given his life history, I kind of do see him doing it till he's 64. And we're going to talk about why in this video. So first of all, top level overview. This guy, he makes me excited to be a Palantir a shareholder. When you think of something like Tesla that I missed out on badly, and I have regrets for it every day, and I'll probably do a video. Let me know if you guys want the video on my relationship with Tesla stock, because I could have made over $50,000-$60,000 and I ended up losing like $2,000-$3,000 because of impatience, because of short-term mentality, because of all the things I preach not to have when holding a high-growth tech stock like Palantir, which is why I'm holding $25,000 and I'm being patient even if you're down money, because you've got to just learn how to be patient at one point in your life if you're trying to become a successful investor. If you think about Tesla, Elon Musk is a CEO that I think people like to have as someone who represents their company, right? So regardless of his crazy tweets and stuff like that, this guy doesn't care about anything other than the success of Tesla. And because of that, as a shareholder, selfishly or not, you're going to be rewarded because of that. Now, will he tweet something from time to time like, oh, the stock price is too high? Yes. But it's not because he has malicious intent. It's particularly because of how he genuinely feels. And when you are dealing with a CEO who's honest and who's not some cookie cutter person who's just reading by the book, who's reading what his PR team says, then you're going to get stuff like that. And you got to take the good with the bad. And a lot of times the good fundamentally outweighs the bad. Ask Tesla shareholders how they feel about the return over the past year. Like, it's a lot more good than bad. Alex Karp, to me, represents that same type of person, right? And that's the thing that's really unique about him. After I started watching his interviews, started understanding who he was, I was like, this guy genuinely believes not only in the mission of what the company's doing, he genuinely believes in the trajectory of what the company could be. He was recently quoted saying this Palantir could be 20 times bigger than it is right now. And maybe that was fluff, but I also think he actually meant like, hey, if you just leave us alone and let us do the work we want to do, you will be rewarded. We should probably be as big as any of the current companies that exist. And when he says this stuff, I think that he genuinely means it, and his conviction is permeating, right? It makes me also feel that he has the potential to really take this company to the moon. So, a couple quick facts about him. Since 2004, the company's been run by co-founder and CEO Alex Karp, who pursued a PhD in philosophy. I believe it's like really progressive German studies is what I remember hearing from an interview with him, and invested on behalf of wealthy European clients before joining Palantir. So he got a PhD in philosophy. And he was like a wealth management person for really rich people in Europe before joining Palantir. He is also a fitness and wellness fanatic who swims, meditates, and practices martial arts. Again, very unique element to the personality. And again, I think if you're invested in Palantir, you should know this stuff, right? Like, it's important to know the guy that's leading the capital that you've invested to the next level, hopefully, right? Like, this is the guy who's responsible for the money that you're putting into the company. He's worth about $1.3 billion, and he's never been married. This is also interesting, right? And this is not a dating channel or anything like that, but you talk about someone who's 52 years old and never been married. To me, as a human, that tells me you really don't care about other people in the context of them getting in between your goals, right? Like when you get married, you have to deal with another person. You have to deal with all their obligations, all this stuff. I'm 24 years old right now. I cannot even think about having a girlfriend because I have a startup. Link in the description if you guys want to check it out. I'm trying to take that startup to the moon. And I'm also like just focused on myself, right? So you think about a guy who has never been married his entire life. Most of it, I mean, it doesn't seem like he's probably going to get married anytime soon now that he's only getting older and older. He probably never cared, if I had to make a hypothesis, just an intellectual guess, on someone else interfering in his life. He had a goal, he had a mission, not some like obsessed, ambitious type of thing, but like he wanted to make Palantir be the company that it had to be. So for the past 20 years, it seems like he focused on that and he didn't focus on getting married. Now, I could be totally off on this, but just like when someone tells you they're 54 and not married, you really do have to think about that deeply because being alone is lonely, right? And not being able to share your life with someone is a hard thing to grapple with. So the fact that someone makes that decision and they're that wealthy, and he could get a wife anytime he wanted, right? Just given the sheer amount of wealth that he has. It's a very interesting concept, right? And that this is the minute stuff. When you've invested $25,000 into a company, you've got to take into account. You've got to sort of understand at a deeper level. So he joined in 2004, and he grew up in Philadelphia. His parents were a pediatrician and an artist who Karp has described as hippies. So his parents were kind of hippies. They often took him to labor rights demonstrations and anti-Reagan protests when he was young, which is going to be interesting in a second. And a 2008 Wall Street Journal profile called Karp a self-described socialist. Now, this is the other thing I want to talk about. He believes in progressive values a lot, right? Like this guy, he's very, he doesn't like Trump, right? I think he made that very clear. He's not a fan of Trump. He's not overtly political, but he has opinions on the world, and he believes that Palantir is a company that is the most progressive of most companies. Now, the self-described socialist thing, I obviously don't think he's like a legitimate socialist, but he studied European philosophy, and a lot of European philosophy, when you really think about it, is sort of at least from a labor perspective, the divide between the nature of free capitalism and collective unions, right? Like the nature of free markets versus the collective has been rooted in European history, especially if you've done a PhD in philosophy and that you know about that stuff. And the key thing about Karp is that he believes that Palantir is doing something good because they're protecting the Western Hemisphere and they're maintaining the Western Hemisphere's hegemony over the world. So as someone who thinks about his life in that particular way or his role in that particular way, you can see where he thinks about how the company can become a company that is not only, a very big company, but a company that is actually doing something meaningful. If you believe that there are countries in the world that have dictatorial regimes and those dictatorial regimes inflict on human rights, then if you are building a company that has purpose and meaning, you don't bow down to those dictatorships, right? So a classic example is a Nike, right? They're not going to say anything bad about China because all their shoes are made in China and they don't want to lose that relationship. So they want to make profit. That money, the best way to do that is by minimizing cost. The best way to minimize cost is by outsourcing labor to China, which means that allows them to maximize profits. Therefore, they do not say anything about things that happen in China. Whereas Karp is unapologetic, right? He's like, we think those people suck because of the things that they do and because of the cultures that they've created, and we believe in freedoms and democracy and what the West stands for. He's quoted a lot in interviews talking about defending the West and defending Western values, and ultimately like what the purpose of Palantir as a company is. So it's really important to understand that, and it's also very important to understand that he doesn't believe technology companies are actually doing things that are meaningful, in terms of the fact that he's quoted in multiple interviews, and this is leading up based on the stuff I've been talking about from his philosophy perspectives and like how he believes in the Western Hemisphere and the West's values, that most companies in Silicon Valley have maximized talent to do online advertising, right? So he's like Facebook, Google, like the smartest people in the world are going to these companies and they're trying to figure out how to get you to click on ads. And the Palantir is in Denver, Colorado, right? They try to get as far away from Silicon Valley as possible. And they have a mission of protecting against terrorism, right? They have a mission of helping organizations better understand their data. They have a mission of helping supply chains operate. Like when you think of Palantir in comparison to Facebook, it's like, Obviously, they're very different companies, but Facebook's trying to get you to click on an ad, and Palantir is trying to make sure that your life is safe by giving software to organizations that can use that software in some of the most profound ways. So those are some of the key personality differences between Karp and other CEOs. And when you've got someone that genuinely has the conviction that they have around the mission that they've created, to the point where they've never gotten married, to the point where they're in their late 50s being a CEO, or early 50s, of a company, right, of a public company. He's been doing this for 17 years. I mean, that's some real dedication. Most CEOs don't stay for 17 years, right? Like, especially founder CEOs, they leave, right? They get what they want and they go away. So it kind of shows the dedication and the mindset of where he's at. So ultimately, those are my thoughts on the company. Those are my thoughts on Alex Karp. I do think it is very important to understand who the CEO is of a company you're investing in. It's something I'm trying to make a larger decision on, because I'm also invested in a biotech company, and I'll probably make some videos on that later if people are interested in it. And the CEO of that biotech company is not the best CEO, and I'm a little worried about that investment. Now, I'm still long-term in that company because I'm long every company that I invest in recently. You know, I don't like trading the market anymore. And, you know, I'm not that confident in the CEO. It's someone like Karp that gives me a lot of confidence. And there's a lot of news out there that he's selling his shares. We'll make some more videos on that in the future for what that actually means and how that's just a lot of hoopla that's going on. But ultimately, this is who Alex Karp is. I hope this video gave a lot of understandings of him. I hope this gave a lot of more explanations on him. And I hope really this inspires people to do more deep dives into the CEOs of the companies that they're investing in, because it's very important to understand the eccentric, minutia, and historical like frameworks for how these CEOs got to the point where they are. What do they actually believe in? How do they actually perceive of the company in the future? If something were to happen, how would they react to it given the philosophical beliefs that they have about the world? These things matter, right? And ultimately, these things affect our investments at the end of the day as well. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know any comments you guys have let me know in the bottom of the video, and let me know any other future videos and topics you would like to see on Palantir, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.